This podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network, the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football, and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network. Every club, every day.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
What a day full of football emotions, and that means that it's time to review it all, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Daily English Premier League podcast. I'm your host, Michał Czarniecki. Super excited for this one, really. I mean, we have so many things to talk about. I am joined by three guests. Of course, the more the merrier, the more guests, the more perspectives on both of those games. We're going to be reviewing Aston Villa Liverpool, but before that, we're just going to be discussing that poor performance by Manchester City as they got knocked out of the Champions League by Real Madrid. Sorry, Jools, we're going to have to somehow touch on that. Jools from Daily Manchester City joining us, like I mentioned, and of course my two dear colleagues from Daily English Premier League, which is Eshan and Viktor. By the way, such a privilege to be able to doing this recording with you, Viktor, for the first time.
Yep, good. Thank you for having me. So looking forward to this one. Both of us Man United fans, so we're not going to talk a lot about our clubs.
Yeah, but this is why, we're just like those neutral fans, which will just be like drinking it all in. Because damn, I'm really excited for this one. I'm rarely super excited for recording an episode that much, and so much has happened. So let's just jump right to it. And Jools, before we started this recording, like you said that you just didn't want to say anything. Instead, you just wanted to do some sort of a visual presentation on where Pep Guardiola's side is at the moment. But if you could just try describing in 3 or 4 sentences what we saw at Santiago Bernabeu.
Yeah, okay. I'll take my mother's advice and use my words. Yeah, it was a hard watch. Madrid turned up, dominated in all the areas that they needed to, and the match stats were close. But I think anyone that watched the game could see that Madrid were in control. They looked dangerous every time that they had the ball. Mbappe was roaming all around the pitch, going wherever he wanted, causing danger wherever he wanted. City didn't have the answers. We talked yesterday about how some of the new signings might have had an impact. No. They did not. Kusanov was run ragged. Nico looked a bit out of his depth, and Marmoush couldn't quite get on the ball enough to make an impact. Of course, that great free kick at the end crashed off the bar for Nico Gonzalez to tap in for a consolation. But yeah, the day was won by the European giants and undoubtedly one of the world's greatest footballers in Kylian Mbappe. So I have to hold my hands up there.
Yeah, Mbappe's show at Santiago Bernabeu, well-deserved hat-trick. Eshan, I actually have a question to you about how Manchester City's approach was, like what this approach was ahead of the game against Real Madrid, because we did see that clear plan in the first leg when they tried to attack, but of course the Real Madrid's mid-block was stopping them in halfway through, basically. And what was Pep Guardiola's plan for this game? What do you think?
Well, I think he had a very decent plan. However, 5 minutes into the game, it is thrown out the window. Madrid get the early goal, and John Stones comes off injured. Who, if you watch the first leg, John Stones coming out of the midfield back into defense was more than anything the reason that Man City crumbled. There's such a composed, controlled nature with John Stones in the midfield. But today, they was just a lot more chaotic. I think more than Man City's approach, I think today was the quality of Real Madrid's front line. In previous times of the season, we saw that Real Madrid's attack was very static. Both Mbappe and Vinny were crowded in the left wing. But today, Rodrigo, Bellingham, Vinny, and Mbappe just moved all the way across. Mbappe's goals... one was straight down the middle, lob through ball. The other one far left, and the other one far right. I think City were just dismantled, and I think that's okay for it to happen.
Mentally, they were not there. I think they lost the game last week, conceding those 2 goals towards the end, and I think that just killed them. They were not in the game right off the start. You could tell, and that's how it turned out to be. But I think they
Victor,
never had a chance.
Do you think that the presence of Erling Haaland would have helped in any way?
I don't think so. To be honest. Obviously, Haaland is Haaland, but I don't think so. I think, mentally, they were not in it.
I'd have to disagree there. I think it obviously gives a boost to anyone if the star man isn't in the team. And Haaland had just scored 2 goals out of 2 chances in the previous leg. So I think that obviously the game isn't won or lost with that, but I do think it would have given Madrid a boost and City a bit of demoralisation, that late news that he wasn't in the team. I think, like you said, Eshan, I think Real Madrid's quality was the main factor here. I think Mbappe and that front 4 could have done that to anyone at any given time. It looked like they had another gear or 2 to go even, In past years, it would be very dissatisfying to admit that City lost to the better team, because over the past few years I don't think there has been. Maybe they don't have the same amount of Champions Leagues to show for it, because Real Madrid are just a monster in this competition. But I think the guard has definitely changed, and Manchester City cannot count themselves at the top of the table anymore.
I'd also like to add that I kind of agree with Jools that Haaland brings a big presence, but I think he is the primary focal point for City for a number of years, and I think that's specifically why Marmoush is in there. We saw it against Newcastle, dropping into those spaces right behind Haaland. Haaland keeps the 2 center backs up top, and it just becomes a completely different game without Haaland. And I think we saw the struggle with that. Every time City went forward, there was a lack of efficacy, there was a lack of lethalness, because Haaland just stays up top.
Yeah,
City is more predictable with Haaland up top. Maybe that's why with Marmoush the plan was to be a little bit more unpredictable.
Well, that's why you get both, right?
Game.
Against Newcastle, that's why it worked. Haaland occupies defenders exactly like you both say, and City, play too much into that a lot, and that's exactly why Marmoush was signed, because the combinations between the 2, whether one would drop or one would go further, they were just creating danger in a different way than what City have had for quite some time. There's plenty of good attacking midfielders in the City team, but none that are willing to make those runs in behind defences to stretch them, to allow the other good number 10 type players more space, and it creates more space for Haaland to finish his chances. So theoretically that would have all worked well, but when Haaland goes, I think the game plan went, and a lot of the momentum that City gained from Saturday's demolishing of Newcastle completely dissipated, because that team was set up with that Haaland-Marmoush duo, which obviously didn't happen.
I think it also leads into the discussion about Julian Alvarez and how much of an unsung hero he was at City, because it's one of the hardest things in football is when you want to be a regular starter and you're coming off the bench consistently, and Alvarez just came off the bench and gave a 9 out of 10 performance almost every single game and occupied that space very well, that as we see with so many players that it's hardest to adapt to that. So credit to Julian Alvarez.
And actually, you were discussing the absence of Erling Haaland there, I just recalled how Man City was conceded the very first goal, and all it took for Real Madrid to get that first blow going was one pass. One pass was enough to dismantle the entire City structure in defense. What does that tell us about that team? I really can't wait to hear your opinions on that, because if one pass can dismantle the entire defensive organization, then what have you actually built there?
Well, I think like Victor said, I think it speaks to the mentality of the team at the moment. I think it wasn't necessarily a tactical thing, right? But then Ruben Diaz, someone who is one of the most safe and consistent defenders over the last half a decade in world football, completely makes a flap at that header. And as soon as that happens and Mbappe finishes it with utmost precision as he can at any given time, then the mountain starts to look a lot steeper from that moment. And yeah, like you said, Eshan, as well, the game plan goes out the window then, doesn't it? When so Mike Tyson says everyone's got a plan till you get punched in the face, and Mbappe punched us in the face quite a few times tonight.
Yeah,
he's in form. I mean, obviously his quality's always been there, but at the beginning he wasn't, like, I would say, confident enough. But now he is, and then he would score those chances, and that's what happened. You can't just let him be in front of the goal like that.
Victor, if you were to drop any of the players from the starting lineup at Man City so that they could spend couple games on the bench or outside the squad, who would it be?
Like, to give him like a breather, send him to Vegas like Bulls was doing with Dennis Rodman?
Well, if that's the definition of going on being bought from starting lineup because of the poor performance, then okay.
I wish City had a defender like Rodman.
Who else would you put in that lineup? Really? Grealish,
no, it was the team
on the bench. Yeah,
it was the team that everyone wanted. Haaland, obviously, you can't change that, but it was the team everyone wanted. That was
pretty much.
Okay, so we're going for.
I don't know how I feel about Kusanov yet, but he needs playing time, and that's what Pep gives him.
Well, actually, as far as Kusanov goes, I did not. I do not think anyone was impressed with his debut, but since that debut, he's improved a lot. Yeah. And today, Kusanov was where he was supposed to be in that defense, and Real Madrid did not have an easy task with Kusanov. I'm not saying that it was like the most difficult task of their lives, but still, like, Kusanov made his presence felt on the pitch. So I think that's still maybe a little positive for Man City fans out there. He's still young. He could, like, I think there are still perspectives with this player, right? Isn't that right, Eshan?
Yeah. Well, they didn't sign him for nothing. He just needs to find his confidence, see how he feels in that defense with City, and then go from there.
Yep. So Real Madrid is through to the round of 16. They have already joined Paris Saint-Germain, Club Brugge, Feyenoord, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, and Benfica from those teams which had to go through that first knockout playoff round. Looking at how the bracket is shaping, I don't think I want to ask that cliche question of who do you think will win the Champions League. My question would be, if you were the teams that finished at the league phase, like in top 8, what part of the bracket would you avoid if you had that control? Whoever can take that question.
I'd avoid whichever part of the bracket Real Madrid are in.
Okay, all right, pretty obvious. But
I think Liverpool and obviously Barca are finished 1 and 2. You want to avoid them, but even playing form-wise, they're in big form, in a good form. So you want to avoid those two.
Well, so again, okay, just to clarify the question.
Yeah.
So are you asking from the 1 through 8 teams perspective, or are you asking
from top 8 perspective?
Oh, okay, interesting. Out of the teams we just saw, I think Benfica would be a scary team if they weren't scheduled to play Barcelona and Liverpool next. PSV also did very well. Obviously, Real Madrid.
Well, PSV is still not true, so there's still like 12 minutes left. So hopefully,
there's still
hopefully they go through.
For all the viewers and listeners out there, you already know the outcome, so you can basically say what's to
for us.
Well, but they can't. They could scream at us, but we won't be able to hear them. That's how it works. But seriously, I mean, like if the way I look at it, of course, somebody could say that the part of a bracket with Real Madrid, PSG, potentially Liverpool, that is a nightmare of a bracket, and no one. If somebody wants to get more or less an easy way to the Champions League final in Munich, then that's the part of the bracket that they should avoid. But is that kind of rationale? Does it make sense, guys, or is it just wishful thinking? And if you want to be the best, you have to be able to compete with everyone.
You have to beat Real Madrid. Sorry,
Yeah.
to win this competition, you have to beat Real Madrid. It's as simple as that. Like, we can go down all the different paths that we want to go down, but at the end of the day, there is one juggernaut that stands above all the rest of them, and you'll have to beat them to win the competition.
Agreed.
And that is as simple as that, in my opinion. Sorry to cut you off there, but you
No,
can't win this competition
Madrid
without someone smashing Madrid out of the way, right?
Yeah, the be all that ends all. I think when Ajax went on that incredible run like a few years ago when they beat Real Madrid and they beat Juventus, that was part of the reason that everyone thought that that's the team that was going to win the Champions League is because they had Real Madrid in the back burner. And how many teams do that to Real Madrid?
And then Spurs of all of them. Come on.
The most like Spurs went marching in. Oh my goodness.
The Lucas Moura went marching in, indeed.
Well, not the best of memories for Arsenal fans, but Arsenal wasn't involved today. We will be talking about Arsenal later in our episodes. We're going to have to move on unless there's something you guys want to add about this thread, about like City, Real Madrid standoff.
I would also say that I think Liverpool go in equal favourites as well, to be fair, because Liverpool already comfortably beat Real Madrid this year, didn't they? Mbappe wasn't quite hitting the levels he is now, but no one's going to want to draw Liverpool or Barcelona in that particular part of the bracket too. So, of course, it's easy to say Real Madrid will win it, and I'm being a bit facetious, but there's obviously quality teams littered out through this competition.
Yeah. Benfica and Paris Saint-Germain await Liverpool in the round of 16. They did not play today in the Champions League because they had, of course, their spot in round of 16 secured. But Liverpool did have a game today, and how did it go for them? You'll find out after the ad break.
Your body is unique. And Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
And what's good for us right now is to talk about how Liverpool's trip to Birmingham went. And how it went is that they dropped 2 points. And those could be the crucial points in the title race. And especially that must have been good news for Arsenal, as they have a chance to somehow rectify that, maybe not completely, but at least partially, the gap in the Premier League table. That was such a exciting game. I think that game was even more exciting than the Champions League bout we had. I was watching those games simultaneously. I was just trying to stay up to date with what was going on. Eshan, did you see that game?
I saw bits of it. I was more focused on the Champions League, but what I did see was in the first half, especially, is where I was catching most of the games. Rashford did fantastic. He seemed like. I think the biggest complaint us United fans have with Rashford is that he didn't track back. You see it every game. I remember there was a game against like Wolves last season, that 4-3 away win, and he just wasn't tracking back. And it was like I was pulling my hair out watching that game. But he was tracking back for Villa. He was a very, very willing runner. I think it's very telling that with this new move, he has like this new lease of life. He doesn't have the match fitness. He's been away from the first team for God knows how long at this point. Right. So he's
even did a slide tackle. I don't think I remember anyone tackling, doing a slide tackle, which is kind of painful to watch him. I'm not a fan of him. I lost all my patience with him, so I really hope he doesn't.
Fair enough. I think a lot of United fans probably share the sentiment.
I cannot deal with that kid anymore. I lost all my nerves.
Interesting.
I think I'm watching Rashford now from like more of just like a footballing perspective, and I'm just like enjoying that.
I want to see how he's just gonna respond.
Yeah, just like the curiosity, and I think today was a great example of that.
I think we're just gonna have to see until the end of the season to fully
assess
Rashford's move. But
he can do worse than what he did at United the last couple of years. So
true. So we're not praising him entirely just yet. Let's just wait and just stick around and see what's going to come out of that. But Victor, like, question to you: how do you think, Villa's approach to the game improved, not improved, but impacted the how the game was going on? Because Villa, they were actually pretty smart about their approach to the game, weren't they?
It was pretty open game from the start. Liverpool started strong. I actually watched that game before, and I thought they're gonna get an easy win. But then again, you have Asensio and Rashford, so it was a new life for Villa, I would say. And yeah, it could have gone up both ways. So a tie probably was the best result for both teams here.
Yeah, I felt, to be honest, I felt super. I felt for
Malen almost scored at the end. I don't know if you guys caught that, but
yeah. I kind
could
of
have been
felt
easily 3-2.
Yeah, I kind of felt pretty sorry for Garcia for that one mistake which led to the opener. But the way how Villa responded, and to be honest, especially those last minutes, I really Liverpool, where they came within an inch of not dropping 2 but actually 3 points. And just like Victor you started saying there, that Malen wasted an incredible situation, but Liverpool wasted some of situations of their own. So are those the cracks beginning to show in the Liverpool's facade, or is it just?
I think
fatigue?
It's just they're getting tired, yeah. And then again, the second half against Wolves over the weekend, that was a tough one as well. So that shows signs of being tired. And then we'll see how they respond in the next few weeks, because again, the deeper we get into the season, the more you have to think about contracts and stuff, and nobody signed yet a new contract, and you have the 3 big names obviously into it. So the deeper we get into the season, if they don't sign, locker room will get tricky, to be honest with you. So they need to get that sorted before big names get into Salah's race, and especially clubs from Saudi Arabia that's going to offer him probably way more money than what he makes now. So you want to get that done as soon as possible before you get to the semifinals of the Champions League or whatever.
That's going to be an interesting, interesting tale of what's going to be happening there. But as we're discussing that, I'm looking at the quotes from the game, and that's going to be a question for you, Eshan, because Arne Slot said that it was a great game, but he was not happy with the result. And say, I quote, it was a great game going in 2-1 down at halftime. Didn't feel like the game went for us like that, but I was disappointed. We came out in the second half and scored 2-2 and had some good chances to make it 3-2, and then we could even have lost it. It was a great game, but I'm not happy with the result. He then also mentions, he goes on to mention how Liverpool defense wasn't good enough against that Villa lineup. So I guess the question now is, how can Liverpool can Liverpool rotate their squad so that the defense can still maintain a good quality in the Premier League without the same top quality players having to be in so much of fatigue?
In specifically defense, I think not. Just after recent stuff, I think Gomez just suffered another long-term injury, which has been par for the course for him, and we wish him the best. And I didn't see it, but I saw on the match chart that Connor Bradley went off, and
he pulled something, I don't know what, but
so Trent is working his way back from a little injury as well. So it's not like if you don't have 100% right back and you don't have like really good cover in center back, because they have Kwanzaa, Van Dijk, and Konate, and that's it. So I don't think that they do have the squad to really rotate very well. I think they have the squad to compete, but the squad to rotate is a completely different squad, and I just don't think they have it, unfortunately.
Okay, so next question would be, what's next for Villa?
And obviously you had the Darwin Núñez, the usual miss. He could have won the game for them twice.
I didn't see the miss, but everyone online is talking about it.
Yeah, he was literally an empty goal.
Right, right. Yeah, I was about to ask about that, but Victor just jumped in a little bit. I was about to ask for that. Never mind. Okay, we mentioned it. Yeah, those were like a couple of 100% situations that should have been capitalized on, but they were just wasteful. And I think that point really is fair. But really, just like Arne Slot said, that game really could have gone either way. So, what's next for Villa, guys? What do you think?
Well, I think it really depends on the European campaign, to be honest. I think that's the theme of Villa's season so far, is like giving their all in Europe and then coming back with a depleted squad. I think the fact that they played Liverpool today will help them very much. They'll get a break in match week 29, so in like 3-4 weeks. I think it's after the international break when the League Cup final happens between Liverpool and Newcastle. That's why they played Liverpool today. But I think a lot is determined on how far they go in Europe. If they get knocked out in the next stage, then I think they'll be fine for the season. But if they are pushing in Europe and continue to push in Europe, then it's going to be a completely different season.
Right, they have depth, though. That's the difference, I think, for me. They sold Durant, but they brought Asensio, they brought Rashford, they brought Malen. Yeah, so I think they're going to be fine. And it's pretty exciting now with all the new names that they brought just because of the money with Durant.
I mean, I can't even think about the last time you really had like a exciting January window with like lots of players that came in and rejuvenated the squad. It's been a few years since I think we've seen one of those.
What would we class as fine for Villa? Because obviously they've set their standards now with a top-class coach and quality transfers, like you guys have just said. I think if they didn't qualify for the Champions League, because let's just say they probably won't win the Champions League, even if they have a great go at it, which I expect them to.
Yeah.
So if they didn't reach the Champions League again, that would be... Is that fine? Do you know what I mean? The standards are different now.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think they're going to get Champions League next year, even though they're still close. You can say they're like, 5-6 points maybe behind, but I don't think they're going to get to
very
top
tight.
four.
They're ninth, but they're still only 5 points away from City in fourth currently.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. While I think Villa have a great squad and they will have a consistent output, I think they're just this season, there's not as cohesive of a unit as we've seen in Villa last year. For example, when Villa went away to Arsenal last year, that was an elite away performance. Every single person knew what they were doing. Every single person was chasing after every ball. Every second ball they were winning. And now with Villa, it's a little more that they have to like motivate themselves, it seems like, for each game. And like they have so many moving parts and so many new signings that it seems that like against Ipswich on the weekend, that should be a win. That 1,000% should be a Villa win. And if you want to challenge for the top four, what we've seen is that you need incredible consistency now, especially with Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest coming into the mix, an extra 2 teams for slots that don't exist. So I just don't see them having that consistent of a run going into the rest of the season.
I think that was Emery's mistake over the weekend, that he took off Dean at halftime and then they conceded the goal from that side. He should have waited until like 15, 20 more minutes, see how the game's going to go from there. I know they had an extra player, but he should have given those couple players that he took out at halftime another 15 minutes and then make the subs. Because Madsen was at fault for that goal and then they couldn't score.
He's not had a great season, really, is he? Considering how much potential he's got and how good he was at Dortmund last year, I've been a bit underwhelmed. I think they were planning for him to take Luca Dean's place, but he hasn't been good enough.
Yeah.
Defensively, he's nowhere near Luca Dean, I think. And his positioning is questionable at times. So, but he cuts in offensively. He gets in a shooting position. Even at the game over the weekend, he getting to pretty much the box to take a shot, no problem.
Yeah, well, you need your left back to defend.
Yeah.
Well, so wow, we've just we've covered so many players and so many different stories there. And that is why I love doing this podcast, because as a host, it's really an easy job. All you have to do is just to drop a general topic out there and have the guests take it to some other levels. And of course, stay tuned. And the more you are out there, the more excited we are to make more and more content just like that. We'll be back after another ad break.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out as the clear winner, with 4K video recording from your phone, AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the description to learn more. about Zencastr.
Thank you, Zencastr, for allowing us to use your platform so that we could just publish our brand new episodes here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, especially at the Daily English Premier League podcast. Thank you so much. And and with that being said, let's move on to the last segment that I got planned for you guys, and that is the highlight of the day. If you were to choose one story, one situation, one goal, or maybe one disaster that happened during this day, which one would it be? Highlight of the day. Maybe let's start with Jules because it should be easy, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't look past the world's biggest footballer scoring a hat-trick for the world's biggest team in the world's biggest match of the day, really, can you? And yeah, he was phenomenal. He's had a lot of doubters since his move, but I think he's allowed teething issues, especially when they're so stacked in that specific area of the pitch. And today was a real milestone performance in his Real Madrid career, I think. We'll be looking back on this one when he collects one of the numerous awards that he will in his time there as the day he really, really arrived on the global scene for Madrid.
Global d'Or. What am I saying? Sorry. Ballon d'Or is what I wanted to say. Question mark in his future?
Oh yeah, no doubt in my mind.
And Lewandowski will still have to wait. Maybe they will give him the Ballon d'Or post-mortem. What do you guys think?
They should. I think that's what it's going to have to take, though.
Well, he will have it. I mean, he will just win. He will have won. Never mind. Okay, sorry. It's just more like my Polish football
he's
heart
the winner
just
of
cracking
hearts.
You're not wrong, though. You're not wrong. He did deserve that one. He did deserve that one in COVID. Yeah.
Undisputed.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that Barcelona does well, and maybe people from France
Rafinha. If Barca go all the way, it's
go.
Rafinha, isn't he? He's the main man now, in my opinion.
Okay, there goes the chances. Never mind. So, Eshan, what is your highlight of the day?
I mean, I'm trying to play devil's advocate because my highlight will also be the Mbappe, but that second goal, I literally leapt out of my chair because it was so good. But I'll go with PSV. I think PSV upsetting Juventus is not something that many people had on their cards. You know, that Juventus, usually a defensively resolute side, under Thiago Motta, they have had something crazy in the league of 13 draws, but were unbeaten until a month ago when Napoli beat them. So very, very defensively solid. Going away to PSV, there's a great argument that you think Juventus are just going to shut up shop. I think they definitely tried to, but PSV kept on pushing. And more than a highlight, I'm just going to go with a standout player when I was watching that game, Noah Lang. I think he will be in a top team. I think it's only a matter of time. I think, unless you consider PSV a top team, in which case he's already there. But he was spraying balls around, just pushing people up the progressive ball carries, I think is the statistic. But more than that, as soon as he did something, had a great shot to the bottom corner, he was G'ing up the fans. And I think I love that from a player. I think that's incredible. So I'm going to go with him for my man of the day.
Well, that's not playing devil's advocate. That's actually pretty good. Come on, Eshan.
Yeah, that's a well-informed and executed argument. Come on.
Of course. I wouldn't be able to construct that
first Bernabeu hat-trick is kind of hard to top, though.
Okay, well, there's still Victor. Let's give Victor a shot. So, what's your highlight?
I mean, no matter how hard I try to find something else, no, the hat-trick by Mbappe, that's the highlight of the day for sure. I mean, he's been scoring 4 games in a row against Atletico Madrid and City twice. So, yeah. He's picking up his form at the most important part of the season. So, that's dangerous. That's why
think
Madrid
it's his,
now...
7th goal at home in a row. Yeah. So...
Crazy.
And if he can maintain this form, no one's going to be talking about that sticky start today.
Yeah.
We will just see how it goes. And of course, I can go for my private highlight of the day, which is Matty Kashowski, as Eshan calls him, coming back after regaining his strength after the injury. And he got a little bit of he actually got a decent performance. He got some runs on the wing. He actually even took a shot on goal, which is more than we can say about Manchester City's performance. When there was like after a 75th minute, I guess there was just only one shot that was off target.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I do not remember entirely correctly, but that must be it. And Matty Cash coming back. Really looking forward to seeing him in the Premier League again. So, with that awesome positive note, that concludes our review of what was going on in Birmingham and in Madrid. Aston Villa with a 2-2 draw against Liverpool, and of course Manchester City just having some sort of like a train wreck match, to be honest, when they lost 3-0 to Madrid in the second leg. Thank you guys so much. Jules from Daily Manchester City, thank you so much. Eshan and Viktor from our team of Daily English Premier League, Michał Czarniecki from California. Thank you guys so much for joining, and tune in tomorrow and the day after that, and then join in for all of the days that when we publish our episodes, because you will have plenty of listen to. Thank you so much again, and from California and everyone here, I will say do zobaczenia, do usłyszenia.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.